Live from the Talking Joe Studios. It's Talking Joe.
I see normal.
Hey, Talking Joe fans, it's Mark here. You are watching the Golden Joes Awards for The Devil's Due. We're going to be talking about issues 1 to 25 as a little bit of a retrospective, selecting our favorite components for a number of different categories. And I'm joined by many prestigious guests today to go through these special issues and pick out what we like and what we don't like. If you're watching live, you can join in and leave us a comment. For example, Sergeant Slaughterhouse is on board. So good to have you. We've got Matthew. Hey, Matthew. And we have got people ready and waiting to come in and talk to us. The party is getting started, as is pointed out. So who have we got coming up first? It is one of our regular presenters. Here we go.
I really want to talk Joe with you. It's a real American Tim. American Tim.
Hello, viewers, and hello, Mark.
Good to have you, man. Let's jump on in with the next person.
J.
It's G.I.
Good morning,
Jay
Joe
Jake
fans.
Audrey.
I'm excited. I'm nervous. I feel like I'm on the red carpet. I've never been to an awards show before. I'm getting ready to hand out these Golden Joes.
It's quite a tuxedo you've got there, Jay.
I try to, try to keep it relatable to the common man.
Yo, Jay.
Good morning, Sergeant Slaughterhouse, and everybody else that's in the chat, and the guys that are about to join us. I'm excited. We've talked to a lot of these guys on Facebook and in Messenger and stuff, and now we're getting to hang out with them and talk about what we've been reading and discussing for the last 10 weeks.
Unleash
20 weeks.
Unleash the guests.
The rule is you're a guest.
Some axes to grind, so we'll see.
The rule is you're a guest, you get a jingle. Here we go.
Do the Bartman. Everybody back and forth side to side. Do the Bartman. Wow, man.
Hello.
It's the Bartman. And good to have you on board, Bart. We were talking before about a long time ago about getting you involved in this before these guys sort of came in and hogged the limelight. Nice to sort of finally get you onto the show. And
thanks for having me.
It's glad that you're sort of dressed up appropriately to talk G.I. Joe as well. It's nice for you to make that effort for us.
I just got off of duty, so it worked out pretty good.
Can you give us a hint as to where you might be today?
It's a hot place, deserty, in the Middle East.
You've given away too much already.
I'm in Benzaheen.
There you go. That was close. The same general region.
Yeah.
But the room you're in, it looks like there's air conditioning because I see a mini split behind you.
Yep. That's how we do everything here. Every room will have at least one or two in them.
It's hot. Okay, next up we have...
How the hell did you find that? Hello.
Straw.
Yes. Yes. Hello. Pleasure to be here.
Hello.
No.
Hello, Richard.
So people on our Facebook group will recognize Richard, or rather Carol, as a regular sort of commenter over on the Facebook group, and yeah, a brave man exposing his true nerd culture to his better half.
Well, yeah, it's because I'm too lazy to get my own page, so I have a very tolerant wife.
Yeah, my favorite was her commenting that that her notifications were getting filled up by people talking about G.I. Joe crotches.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Richard, I'm too lazy to make my own G.I. Joe podcast, so I just waited 10 years until Mark asked.
It's essentially the best way, I find. Anyway, yeah,
yeah, what are you guys?
I've just said that I promise not to. I'm obviously the only actual fan of Devil's Due in the world, but I have promised Mark to behave today, and not tell you why you're all wrong about it. But
I would, if it's diplomatic.
Hey, let us have it.
If it's diplomatic and informed, I would like to hear why we're wrong.
I shall behave.
Yeah, go for it, Richard, because at the outset of this, it was clear that you were a Devil's Due era sort of uber fan. So yeah, before we get into the awards category, it would be good to get your take on why it is you like that era, quite so much.
Well, I mean, I think the thing for me is obviously being from the UK, I'm an Action Force fan first, and this is going to sound terrible, and I genuinely meant this in the early days. Larry Hama was just some bloke who came in at some point, and when I was reading comics later, I followed Action Force, which was published in the UK, and there was the original stories, and then there was the Larry Hama reprints. And when you're about 12 or 13, I'm not really a comics person generally. Who's writing these comics wasn't really imprinting on me. And then I went away from it for a long time. I turned about 14. I'd like to pretend I got involved with girls, but I didn't. I just became a Doctor Who fan, and I forgot all about it. And then I picked up a comic in a comic store in about 2002 that was G.I. Joe, and it was Devil's Due. And I hadn't really read the Larry Hama stuff. And Devil's Due, I followed it. It's literally the only comic I've ever created. And, well, I'm sure we'll come to it. I'm sure there's 100 reasons why you're absolutely correct in so many of the things you say you don't like about it. I'm not arguing it. I'm sure you're absolutely right in the way you're looking at it. But to me, this was G.I. Joe. I went back and I got the Larry Hama. Of course, Larry Hama is G.I. Joe. But to me, for a very, very long time, G.I. Joe was Barrel Roll and Kamakura and Blaylock and all of that. And I think it's when your first introduction, it was essentially a reintroduction. It got me all back into all of this. And so for me, sadly, it goes beyond reasonable criticism. Some of it is just, I know that you're right, but I still love it. So I don't know what to say. It's got a connection. Got me back into G.I. Joe and Action Force and all of that. So I just love it. I just do.
We've got to come in here. Don't forget Firewall. Do you even love Firewall?
Firewall's okay. Demon, that was okay. Killing him was fine.
Okay.
But,
Bart, Bart, what is your connection with the Devil's Due run, or the comics that came before?
Before I had them all through a subscription at Marvel, so they just came to my house. I really didn't have to sort them out, so I read all those all the way up to 155. Right around then's whenever I graduated high school, went into the military, did 4 years there, and then they politely asked me to leave and not return. So I took a civilian job where I worked in the same area for about 6 years. The company had a bit of a downsizing because of a market crash kind of thing. So I decided to move back home. I'd been away from home for about 10 years. So I moved back home, and this is right about the time where Devil's Due was just starting to pop off. And not being home for so long, I really didn't know anybody there. The job I had lined up, I didn't end up getting because the regional director who was going to hire me, I knew 10 times more than he did. So he badmouthed me to the owner, and the owner didn't hire me. So I'm sitting around with nothing better to do than to Google myself. So I got on Devil's Due's. They had their own boards at the time. So between job hunting, hanging out with what friends I could find back home, I spent most of my time on there talking to like-minded people. I probably spent way too much time on there. I don't know if you would say infamous or famous, but I was well known on those boards for many years until they closed down. So it just happened to be where I needed something to do that provided me with something to do. And it just kind of snowballed from there. And I just haven't stopped since.
Were you buying the issues at a comic book store?
At this time, yeah. A friend of mine that I knew from back in my high school days, he had a buddy who owned a comic book shop. So he said, hey, go see my friend, get a pool box with him. And that's what I did. And I still have a pool box with him to this day. He's my Joe supplier. Another buddy of mine I've known since I was like 13. He started another comic book shop. So I get all my other books from him to kind of diversify the funds and spread it around a little bit, help the small guy out with their business.
Excellent. Yeah, I was big into those Devil's Due boards back in the day as well, when I was supposed to be working, and one of my colleagues were like, what's that black screen that keeps on popping up on your on your computer screen? And yeah, they would call us like the UK elves, like most of the users over in America, and it'd be like overnight when everyone else is asleep, yes, us Brits would be typing away our comments, and for everyone else to wake up to the next day. Okie dokie. We might be having an extra guest at some point soon. We'll see if there's any dirty diapers that get in the way in between now and then. But otherwise, I think we are good to go with the award ceremony. So let's go.
Oscars, Emmys, it's not about them shows. This award segment has Golden Joes.
Mark,
there we go.
Tell us about this photo of these 3 storm shadows.
So this is some crazy limited edition Golden Storm Shadow and Silver Storm Shadow that were made available. That I don't know a huge amount about the backstory of, but they make for a nice Oscar-esque image to represent our Golden Joe Awards, I think.
Were these a Hasbro release in America?
I'm not entirely sure, to be honest.
Maybe,
I don't know the full backstory.
Maybe one of our
research.
I put on my Transformers fan hat, and Takara did this kind of thing with Transformers all the time in the 80s and 90s, and probably still today. Maybe one of our viewers who's doing this live, if they know, we'd love to hear from you. We'd love you to show that you know more than Mark.
It's not that easy, not that tricky, rather. So yeah, a bit of Google food, and you'll find it. I said not that hard.
Yeah.
So I think I'll because
those Golden Stormies.
Yeah, it sounds a little bit sounds like a little bit like a political scandal, but let's not go into it. Okay, so
what kind of a mixture of two?
Yeah,
maybe
I'll play the jingle again, and then we'll flick on to the first of the categories.
Oscars, Emmys, it's not about them shows. This award segment has Golden Joes.
Okie dokie. So first out of the gate, it is Best Cover. So for Best Cover, nominations are Issue 1. Quite iconic there, from J. Scott Campbell. We have also got issue number 6 there, representative of the Zek Ovra. Issue 24, I think this was a nomination from Richard, Tim Seeley. And finally, issue 25 from Bado.
Oh, my eyes.
Too
bright.
It's not Bado who went too far with this cover. It's the coloring.
Oh, heavens.
Well, I'll kick it off with a brief reaction to the first two. I do like that J. Scott Campbell cover. I wonder if it lowers a little bit in my estimation for being a partial cover homage. And then as for issue 6, I don't know if this is my favorite Zek cover of the bunch, and certainly his covers for 20 and 21 have some added has some added excitement because he was drawing one of those issues, and you get connecting covers. So if I'm going to pick one, it's going to be one of these first two. But I might vote for something that's not visualized right now.
Okay, a write-in vote there. Okay, I think we had Richard. Do you want to talk to issue 24, your nomination?
I thought I'd nominated issue 25 actually, but
was it? Okay, maybe it was the other way around. That was Bart. That was Bart. Okay,
we'll talk about whichever one you nominated.
Okay, Richard, you talk to 25 then.
25, I don't know. I just love it because, as you may well learn, I'm a massive fan of The Last Stand, and I think that's the best of the covers. I don't think it's too bright, is it? Maybe that's a comic technical thing that I'm unaware of, but I just love this image of Serpentor he's stalking towards Cobra Commander, despite the appearance of Cobra Commander's half nose, which is something I really don't like at all. I just like the imagery.
We agree on that.
Those, yeah. It's one of those covers that's not literally what you're going to see in the comic, but it's sort of symbolic of what's going on in the story. And it ultimately comes from the fact, and I know I'm bashing my head against a wall when I say this, I love The Last Stand, and I love the way that cover is as representative of The Last Stand.
Okay.
So not a technical love for anything in particular. I just love that image, although I'm not going to vote for it. Actually, quite honestly.
What? Okay, 24, Bart.
I like it because it's a wraparound, so you get the best bang for your buck. Plus, it's just them charging in to go somewhere and kick butt. I had a couple other ones that were like runners up, and they were just kind of fun. That's kind of how I picked all my choices, was just out of fun. Everything leading up to the last arc, I thought was just him trying to get his feet underneath him. I didn't necessarily think the writing was all that great, but he did have some interesting stuff. So yeah, I just think this cover was just fun. It's just a bunch of Joes getting ready to do what Joes do.
Very good. Okay, let's take a vote, shall we? I'm going to get out my pen. Let's have a show of hands. Who would vote for number 1? We got a J and
yes.
and also a Mark, I think. So we give that one 2 votes. I think it's an homage, but it's its own piece as well. And I think just instantly classic and the fact that it was the number 1 and launched this era as well, sort of a bit of a nostalgia factor there. Any votes for number 6? We've got a 1.
I told you I was going to vote against my own choice. Because I've forgotten that one.
Anyone for 24? We got Bart, and I think Tim has not voted yet.
I think I'm going to vote for 7 or 8. A Zek cover with 7 and 8. One of them Beachhead, and then
one.
Yeah, that's Beachhead, right? So much personality. And then Storm Shadow ending the phone call for Hawk has so much menace. So
yeah, insufficient buttons on the phone though, Tim.
Yeah, I had 7 as a runner-up, and then the one that was I think 15 was the one with the photo with all the buddies like arm in arm.
Yeah, it's a fun one.
Or
okay,
was that? It was either 14 or 15. One of them.
Yeah,
I think number 1 just takes it by a smidge there on that one. But
Mark, are you voting or are you just officiating?
I'm voting as well. So my vote was for number 1. Maybe did I miss somebody from that total? We got 5 of us. That adds up to 5. Yeah. Okay.
All right, the winner's cover of issue number 1.
Next, best back cover. So we have got a lineup of several of the of my favorite pieces from David Michael Beck here, and a sort of a really key part from that Devil's Due run, and what set it apart was kind of the production values that they took. You know, they really invested in adding these onto the book, you know, with additional cost when they absolutely didn't need to. So it was always fun to see what Beck was gonna come up with and what character he would feature. Tim, do you want to chime in?
This was not a category until yesterday when Mark and I were chatting, and I said, I think I'm gonna sort of vote away from your 4 nominees for best front cover by just talking about David Michael Beck because he's so important to this run, and it was a cool extra thing that Josh Blaylock did in including that work. So I'm going to take credit for this category, and I am voting for one that we see here. I'm voting for. Can you remind us, Mark, which issue numbers these are?
Ooh, I didn't write that down.
Oh, never mind.
I think this is the Snake Eyes is definitely
number 8.
issue number 1. But yeah, I can't. Storm Shadow, I think, was the first issue that he appeared in, and Cobra Commander was probably number 3. But yeah, so let's go straight to the votes. Show of hands again for Snake Eyes. None for Snake Eyes. It's an iconic piece. Anyone for Storm Shadow? No one. Cobra Commander?
Landslide.
Gorgeous
Fireflies.
3, 4, 5.
Gorgeous use of light. This is David Michael Beck's best G.I. Joe image.
I think I actually have this as a poster. Back in the day, Devil's Due was putting out a bunch of covers as posters. And at one point, I guess they weren't selling, and he marked them down to like $1 a piece. And I probably bought 20 of them. So I got all kinds of different posters. Wow. I think this is one of them.
Nice. Excellent. And we talked to Chuck Costas the other day about this Baroness piece again, because he owns the prelim piece where her hips were lying at a slightly too seductive angle. So
he's got the unused one that we looked at.
He's got the pencil prelim, which was then also painted up as a separate piece as well. So there's sort of 3 iterations really of this out there in the wild. Okay, what do we have up next? Best new toy tie-in. So yeah, Devil's Due era, they did try and focus in on the toys that were coming out in the day and keep it current, even though they didn't necessarily have to. But hats off them for sort of carrying on in that tradition of focusing on the latest toys of the day. So what have we got? We have got the new Hiss 4 tank with the rising front, making its grand finale. Big entrance there in that scene where they're taking on the Russians. We have a nomination there from Richard for this one, Crosshair, which I allow, but it's sneaky because he's got a one panel appearance in issue 25, I think. It's a good figure. Actually, do you want to, while we've got it up on the screen, do you want to talk to it?
I must admit, I'm again not going to vote for my own nomination because something better's come up. But I think the better toy tie-ins are actually 26 onwards. But I just love this figure, and he did appear, so I reckon he's allowed to be at least nominated, which makes him a member of the Academy. But yes, I won't be voting for him, however. So I don't know why I did it.
Richard, can you help us out a little bit? What year is this figure from? Is he one of the figures? Is he one of the figures with the sort of 2 big shoulders? Or
no, I think he's from the Spy Troops range. That would have been around
about 2003. When in this book it came out, and I think definitely one of the better figures of that era, and featuring a hat that many customizers loved because they could, repurpose it for their long range recon patrol.
Is this an O-ring figure, or does his waist twist?
Yeah, it's when they'd got all that sorted out again.
Okay.
And they were moving into making these ones. And this is between, I think the Spy Troops is probably the best of the 3 sort of ranges they did, because I thought Valor versus Venom went a bit mad, and I just think he's a great figure. Really, yes, his appearance is absolutely feeble, although he does have a reasonable appearance in front line. But there he is. You can see him, so that's fine. And he's in a picture with Ripcord, who's the best G.I. Joe character, so that qualifies him automatically. It's not a very strong defense.
Next up, we've got a Duke who was the first crowbarring in of a figure. This was the limited articulation kind of first wave that was coming out when the book was launched. And Duke is out of his suit and tie and into some new duds for the finale of the first arc of the series in issue 4. Next up, maybe a controversial choice. It's I'm going to add our next guy into the stream actually, because he might have something to say about this. It's let's find his jingle actually, and then I'll add him in.
Going for a party like an S-job party, check a toy from side to side.
It's the man.
Just in time to talk toys. Yo, Joe, everybody.
S-job, what's happening?
Welcome.
Hello, Jay. Hello, everybody. Hello, Richard. Hello, Tim. Bart.
How are you?
What's up, Mark?
Tell us how
apologies,
we're wrong
I'm half an hour late. My computer has shut the bed. Honestly, I was watching the little wheel turn for 30 minutes. But don't worry, I was watching you guys on the YouTube. So I'm well up to date. And yes, why is that a controversial choice, Mark?
Tell us how we're wrong about the wildfire. We haven't said anything yet, but I know we're wrong because you're here.
I just, it's quizzical that, I think it was an error that the wildfire was the name used in issue 3, its debut in the swamp.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Because it is the Night Attack chopper. That was in that first wave of like 2002 G.I. Joe versus Cobra toy line. And it's a damn fine toy. It's weird as hell, but it's fantastic.
Can you be a little more specific about how it's weird? Some of us haven't held one or haven't held one in 20 years.
The weirdest part about it, and I find no real world precedent for it, but each of the rotor blades, if you can imagine like a 3-pronged swastika, each of the rotor blades have a bend to it. So you've got these 3 bent rotors, and they don't unbend. It's not like it's a feature that it kind of folds up. Mm-hmm. They actually spin with this kink to them. And then if you look at the initial art, my goodness, is this a helicopter or is this one of the craft that the Kryptonians use in Man of Steel? Like it's very organic, very insectoid.
Very buggy. I think this was the controversial element of the choice is that, well, it was because we're calling this best new toy tie-in, and the Night Attack chopper at the time I think was quite well received. It's a cool looking vehicle
with some great features.
Sound attack.
Okay, putting that to one side for now, which is the controversial elements, because it added awful blocky plastic protrusions onto otherwise very svelty accessories. The Night Attack chopper has a handle at the bottom that when you pull it, the rotors start spinning. So cool. It also triggers an engine sound. And then it's got a trigger that you can pull out of the main body of the craft. And once you fold that down and pull the trigger, the wings deploy. And if you pull it again, they fire missiles out of those pods until they're all spent. It is mind-blowing, the kind of engineering that they included in this toy. It's really a hidden gem. The Tomahawk can't pull double duty at every turn. The damn thing doesn't have doors. This has doors.
It's
got doors.
What's the plane from like 92, 93 that has the handle, the trigger?
The Ghost Striker. Also a great toy.
So I'm not a fan of the toys which have a place for a kid's hand to sort of double as like a kid, gun, because then it stops being this scale G.I. Joe vehicle and starts being like something more like a Super Soaker or like a like a kid's dart gun.
The joy of these particular toys, though, Tim, is that okay. With regards to the back trigger, it's quite discreet, and the other triggers are fold up. They fold up into the body of the craft, so it's the belly is a clean line if you want it to be. And the same goes with the Ghost Striker. It also kind of flips up and is out of sight. The most egregious thing about the Ghost Striker are these piddly little orange landing gear struts. They're bright orange and they're so short. How that thing doesn't belly in every time it takes a landing is nothing short of a miracle. Anyways, I've gabbed long enough.
Yeah,
it's time for the next toy.
I was going to say quite a cool toy, but maybe the initial interpretation of it a bit weird. Next up, what do we have? Oh, that's it. That's the 4 categories. So, who wants to take a vote or add their own write-in choice? Tim.
My write-in choice is G.I. Joe Strike File issue number 3 is best toy tie-in, because early on in these first 2 years of the Devil's Due era, that's Devil's Due making its biggest statement. Not one panel here, one panel here with the wrong name. That's them making their biggest statement about the toys.
Okay, so here we go. The write-in category has been added in, Tim. So let's have a show of hands. The new hiss. Who have we got? We've got a Bart, and I think I'm going with that as well. I think it was cool. So let's add in a 2 there. Crosshair.
Got to go with Crosshair.
Okay.
Feel the Crosshair
Jay
power.
is voting for it, and Richard is not, despite it being his choice. Duke, any love for Duke? No.
Can we like
no more
cast
Duke.
negative votes?
I do want to say that Duke Cobra Commander 2-pack has a certain nostalgia for me, because even though they weren't that posable, it felt like Hasbro was really paying attention to the brand with this line, with this 2-pack, and the way that they're posed together in the package. You have instant play value. You're a kid, you get 2 characters, you get a good guy and a bad guy. So yeah, I don't love the lack of ball socket joints, but other things about this figure make me happy. But I'm not voting for it.
Okay, and who just laughed at ball socket? So last up,
I laughed at you laughing.
Last up is the Wildfire.
Not last up. We got a write-in vote.
Oh, sorry, we've got the write-in vote. Yeah, so we've got Wildfire. Who's voting Wildfire?
I had totally forgotten about it.
2.
Crosshair.
So nice they released it thrice.
And if my maths is right, then we've got 1 for Battle Files number 3. So we've got a tied vote for Hiss and Wildfire. So does anyone want to change their vote to swing it to give us a winner?
How about we put it out to the comments thread?
Okay, comments mean Wildfire wins. Okay.
If I'd changed my vote, it would have gone to Crosshair. That would have created the same problem. So.
Is it possible for them to release a Hiss with a more exposed gunner than the Hiss 3? Or was it the Hiss 4? Like he's literally just sitting in a nice cradle on top of the thing. At least in the original Hiss, the guy had half of his body concealed by the vehicle. But yeah, that Hiss is such garbage.
So the wildfire has it.
Tell us how you really feel.
I almost chose the Wildfire, but since the names didn't match, I didn't really see it as a toy.
Okay.
Technical foul.
Now we come to an actual tough one.
Oh no,
Best
there's a typo in the marquee.
Now,
what is it?
A ruthless in terror artist.
You know what?
In terror.
Mark, if only the eye here had serifs.
Maybe it would stood out then. Yeah.
Then
okay. Right. First up, we have everyone's favorite, Steve Kurth. Like him or loathe him, he did give some quite dynamic panels, such as this one when we see the big entrance of Cobra Commander. Tim Seeley from Richard's. Richard, what is it? What is about Tim's style? Do you think that resonates?
I don't know. He's
so
just
much with you?
straightforward. This is going to sound so negative. It's because he doesn't look like all the others. I find people like Kurth. I don't like that muscly look and weird, strange faces. I like Seeley. I've heard the comments that have been made at how he looks like other things. To me, he doesn't. Maybe my not having a background in comics means that I don't notice these sorts of things. I just think he's dead straightforward, and he makes CoverGirl look very nice. That's a very nice choice of picture, by the way. Is that not a politically correct thing to say? I don't know, but
Nope,
I don't know.
I'll find you.
I can't give you a technical answer for why I think he's the best. I just think he's dead straightforward. He's not grossly exaggerated like I find one or two of the others, and again, maybe because it may just be longevity. He just became the artist that I associate with the stuff, with the band, with the comic.
He's a nice guy too. I've met him several times, had many conversations with him. Super nice guy.
Excellent. And yeah, we're sort of looking at this with the lens of issue 1 to 25. Obviously, he did do certainly a lot more work in subsequent issues as well. So I guess in terms of looking back and our nostalgic memories, that possibly that might play a factor. Okay, and then who's next? Brandon Bado, splash page there from issue 20, and Mike Zeck. So let's any comments actually before we vote, or maybe put your hands up for a vote and give a comment as you go.
I got a quick question. Mike Zeck, does anybody feel that he fell off a little bit from the Marvel run? To me, I don't think he looked quite the same, and not in a better way. I don't know if that's just because he's older or what.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about that a little bit during the show. I think a lot of it has to do with just an artist simplifying his style over years. Like I said during that episode, they find that they can tell as good a story with fewer lines. Sometimes, I don't know, like I said, I think that this one could have almost been inked straight from the thumbnails. There's a lot less detail, and a lot of what is there's. It's not as tight as like the old Marvel covers. I know exactly what you're saying, but I think there's reasons for it. Tim, what do you think?
I think in our collective memory of Mike Zeck, sometimes what I do is I think of his covers and then I compare them to the interiors of this issue, which isn't a fair comparison. The fair comparison would be like Punisher #1 and Kraven's Last Hunt. But so many of his projects were compromised by changing deadlines, like editorial sort of ruining things. And Punisher #1 is 1985 and G.I. Joe 21 is decades later. So it does not look the same. I'm gonna not vote for Mike Zeck here, sort of as an honorary statement that though he obviously drew an issue of G.I. Joe between 1 and 25, it was, and I mean this in a nice way, it was a stunt. And I don't associate Mike Zeck with Devil's Due, despite the fact that he did a few pinups in Strike File, he did a few covers, and he came back for this wonderful issue. So like he's a Devil's Due artist with an asterisk. So even though I love this issue and it was amazing that he came back, and kudos to Blaylock, I'm going to vote for Jamal Igle, because sort of because I like to create discussion. Pound for pound, his work was the best in terms of character acting, finding a middle ground between sort of a lot of ornate detail and like stylistic exaggeration, and then something sort of smoother and more quote regular, like a less ornate style. And even though he wasn't there for very long, his work was such a breath of fresh air after what had just come before, and he's the guy who I wish had stuck around the most. I wish he'd done 2 full arcs. So my vote is Jamal Igle.
Okie dokie. Okay, so
am I allowed to say, and this is going to be terrible, gents, so just cover your ears for a moment. I had no idea who Mike Zeck was or that he was significant until podcast a few weeks ago, because I love his stuff with this. But I had literally no idea of his significance. Is that are we allowed to say that? Is that why I'm so forgiving of
just
it?
have say whatever you want.
We all have blind spots. I was just asking what the name of the other helicopter, what the handlebar is, and I'm sure fans are like, how can Tim not know a toy from 1993?
Yeah, and I mean, I guess for people who first discovered Joe through the UK comics, through the Marvel stuff, like reprints particularly, I don't think we would necessarily have the exposure to all of that original cover art, because a lot of the time it was not using the original covers. It was specially created art by UK creators. So yeah, I don't know that we necessarily got to see all of Mike Zeck's covers the first time, first go round. So it's, if from that perspective, I guess it's probably a fair blind spot, but
there's also a critical mass that builds if you are an American comics reader in 80, 85, 86, 87, because Zeck is doing G.I. Joe covers. He's doing Marvel Tales covers, which reprints issues of Spider-Man. He's doing Punisher. He's doing Secret Wars. And he in that span of 2 or 3 years, he becomes like one of the top Marvel guys. And so just as Mark said, that might get diffused as those things are not reprinted or reprinted differently elsewhere.
Okay, shall we get to the votes? And if you want to chime in with any additional comments as we say the names, then please do so. So any love for Steve Kerr? No hands shooting up. Tim Seeley.
Every time.
I'm seeing 1, 2, 2. We have got Brandon Baddow. Jay, and
he is good,
Steve, and
but I can't
I'll
get
put
past the
my
nose.
hand up for that one. Yeah, the hood nose.
For me, issue 20 was probably the single best looking issue of the whole run. Between just his tight pencils, the inks, and the colors in that one, we talked about, it didn't seem to be overdone. Really nice issue. I would have loved, to have seen like a graphic novel by Baddow, or to see him really stay around and, give him a little more time to do some of those other issues. There were still some panels that were kind of rushed, even in like 22, and I think did you do 23 or just parts of it?
He did some of the earlier Last Stand stuff, didn't he?
I think if he's got time to, to really put the work in, he really cranks out some beautiful stuff. And that issue 20 is just one of my favorite G.I. Joe issues. Period.
I would like for a publisher curate or edit a Best of G.I. Joe collection, in case any publishers of G.I. Joe comics are hiring consulting editors for a one-time gig. And I would include in a collection, because I for such a job, I should include something from Devil's Due, and I would include issues 20 and 21.
Good call.
It's quite a 1-2 punch, both art wise and narratively.
Yeah, we all were really high on those 2 issues. It was a real peak.
So Brandon Baddow has it with 3. Best G.I. Joe character. So who have we got? We've got
Paige
Flint. We have Flint there.
I could write her in, I guess.
You could write her in, Jay. That's your prerogative. Flint in an embrace there with Baroness, sort of slightly, guiding us down the wrong path as to what actually happens in the issue. His Battle Files entry there with his new look. in a black T-shirt, and that is, I think, the Battle Files trade paperback cover. Yeah. Actually, it was it Richard? Was it you who asked for Flint? Am I remembering?
I think I went with Duke.
Oh, it's Bart. Here you go, Bart. Do you want to give a shout as to what it was about Flint that you liked?
Through the run, I think you got to see him develop the most when he was captured and interrogated and everything, and he just kept getting beat up, and he just didn't care. He was like, hit me, I don't care, kind of thing. I don't know. I just thought he had a lot of good development. You saw how his woman cared for him, and so that tells you that he's a good guy, or else she could have just been like, screw him, we'll get him when we get him, kind of thing. Everybody else in the book, they were just kind of there, other than maybe Duke, only because Duke has that like weird CIA thing that he's not talking about. I just thought Flint had the most development, and I mean, he gets to kiss LJ and Baroness, so he's got that going for him.
Nice.
That's yeah. That adds a lot to it. Now that I think about it,
Too bad it's not at the same time, right? But that's a fantasy for another day.
It was close. It was close.
Okay. Keep your fan fiction to yourself. Okay. Next up, we've got Duke.
Secret agent man.
He was a big part of the storyline, particularly those first few issues, and there in many guises, the spy in his suit and tie, the secret agent, a black suited sort of Snake Eyes style sneak suit, and the new look togs there. A new character, influential in that first lineup, Kamakura.
But we're this far in, and we don't know anything about this character. Hardly. How can anybody? I mean, honestly, you guys, anybody votes for Kamakura? What's he done?
That's
He's
half the
stabbed an
mystery
alligator.
of him.
Maybe
We didn't know anything about Snake Eyes either.
We knew some stuff.
Well,
I
25 issues in.
I presume
We
we're
knew
not
about the
doing
car
spoilers
crash.
yet.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Tim.
let's not
no
do
spoilers.
let's not do the spoilers, but we do find out much more about. We do find out much more about Kamakura,
Spoilers.
his backstory, and
I mean, I'm
we've
pretty
even
sure
got
it is.
Master and Apprentice miniseries to come. So yeah, there's certainly more to come from Kamakura.
I'm just saying at this point, how could he?
This point is unknown, and we'll have to put an unknown into here as well. Don't know who this guy is, but featuring him here, it's Snake Eyes.
Isn't there a movie or something with that? Did I hear something
Not that
about
I've heard. No.
something like that?
I don't. So there we go. That's the four.
Wow, that's tough.
It's tricky.
And these are the nominees for best Joe character.
If you want to suggest somebody else,
Do you have a write-in, Steve?
Anyone? Oh man, Scarlett, just for her groan-worthy antics throughout this run. I don't know, guys.
You're not going to pick
these guys are
Crosshair?
all bloody douchebags.
Well, that's what gives them some character. Is they're not just all good guys. They got some douchebag qualities to them. Makes them real.
You don't have.
We're picking
to
the
vote for
best of a
douche,
bad
man.
bunch.
You just don't.
No, maybe that's the fun of this category. Like, which of these guys is the biggest d-hole?
Duke.
Yeah,
Biggest- wait a minute.
total heel turn of like your tough as nails top sergeant suddenly becoming this suited spook type. I mean, it's just, of all the characters they could have picked, they picked Duke.
But then also make it happen.
So
That's an
incongruous.
order.
That's why I like
Damn
it.
it.
I mean, that's why I chose Duke, because I'm going to say this with absolute respect to three of our guests. Being three of the people here, being British, I am mildly suspicious of the sort of all-American boy, blonde chap that he was, and I love Americans. I just make that clear. But I love the fact that they turned him into an absolute SOB in this, and that's something that's going to carry on. because I don't like Duke originally. Like, honestly, I much prefer him in this version. But I'm not going to vote for him.
Good thing another friend of the show ain't on here.
I'm gonna.
What did he just say?
I'm gonna politely not vote. And this isn't like
Come on.
No. This isn't like
You can't take a pass.
None of these characters
in here
in these 24 issues jump out to me
yes.
as a best. They're all like interesting and good. You know, like I don't love Kamakura. I don't love what they did to Duke, but it's interesting. I don't think the stuff with Flint works, but it's interesting. You know, I like Snake Eyes, but his like freak out at the elevator door like doesn't work for me. So not as a like devils do bad, not that. Just as a like this category, these options and a write-in vote don't grab me here. So respectfully and politely, I'm not voting in this one.
But even out of these 4, you can't just pick one of those, throw a dart at them.
You know, it's the difference in sort of the best versus the not best is so infinitesimal.
But he doesn't have to be the best in the series, just the best of these 4.
But again, coming from this comics material, nothing's speaking to me about these 4 guys.
Okay, let's take.
You don't like a
then.
nice tailored suit?
I have a nice tailored. I do like a nice tailored suit. I got married in a nice tailored suit.
I'm just saying, 4 guys.
You get a nice
suit.
You get a nice tailored suit here for like $25.
I think everyone else should vote.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go. Who's got the love for Flint?
I'm gonna troll my boys in the chats and say, yeah.
I've been persuaded quite genuinely.
3. So I think that makes him the winner. Duke. Nope. Kamakura. Nope. Snake Eyes.
Always going to be a Snake Eyes guy.
No.
There's a
Okay,
couple
and I'll
missteps. The whole what was it? Like probably issues 1 through 25. But yeah, there were yes, still my favorite character.
Did you see the issue
still
where
love a lot of parts with him in
there
it.
was a panel they had that had his tattoo upside down?
Hey,
I think he's like sitting there like sharpening a knife or whatever, and it's upside down.
Honestly, I wouldn't even.
I bet you the guy who goes to conventions and he points out guys who have their tattoos the wrong way. You're that guy.
There's a guy here on base has one. I went to stop him the one day and talk to him, but he was beelining for somewhere, and it was like 120 degrees out, so I said, screw it.
I know it's been said
the
on
right way around.
the episode. Yeah, was it?
Who's
No, it was the correct way.
Who's voting for Duke?
No one's voting for
I don't
Duke.
think
So we've got
anybody voted
two.
Basically,
for Snake
Flint and
Eyes.
Snake Eyes.
And there's there's a lot to like about the Snake Eyes as well. The elements of the design are pretty cool. The taking parts of that classic V2 and having the trench knife on the front, adding the Arashikage symbol onto his arm. And he's a big part of this storyline. Cobra character
for me,
perhaps a more interesting category.
The best Snake Eyes part was in 21, and I mentioned it during our review of that, where he was just relentless, like trying to get Cobra Commander. He was not stopping, and it's like, to me, that is always what would epitomize Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes will not stop until he saves the whoever or beats the bad guy, makes it to the top of the building. He's not stopping.
It cost him a relationship twice.
The fighting got so intense that the blades caught fire.
Yeah.
That cover with Flint is so provocative. It has totally outstripped the storyline that it is not relevant to, and that's why I voted Flint. So yeah, I am a sellout. Come at me.
Okay, you made good arguments for Flint.
Cobra character, possibly a more interesting category. We've got the King Snake himself. It's Cobra Commander Destro, Noble Destro, Storm Shadow, and Serpentor, or Serpentor, depending
Quick
on
question. I'm guessing that's Daddy Destro and not Son Destro based on the outfit.
This one was Daddy Destro.
You got to ask.
Okay.
Come on.
Yeah.
He doesn't get my vote. I was just wondering.
His stumpy boots are cut off that panel. So okay. Any call outs here to make? What do we think of Serpentor, for example?
Underused.
Yes, sir. Mark, I love the way you say Serpentor. It's like Mr. Pentor has been knighted.
Yeah, Serpentor of Cobra Island. Yeah.
Very good.
He was just underutilized. He wasn't given enough time to shine or really. I don't know. I know Richard loves that flat, undynamic artwork, but it would have been great if we could have had some oomph to those pages. But yeah, he just Serpentor wasn't given enough. For me, the one here that shined, and somebody else mentioned it earlier, was Cobra Commander. Was just a badass. Almost every chance that he got throughout the entire run, this was not the sniveling, cowardly, Cobra Commander from the cartoon. This was
he was my submission. I don't know if anybody else submitted him. I did, but for those exact reasons, he was just an ass kicker the whole way, ruthless. I mean,
nobody shoots my son except me.
That was awesome.
Yeah, that's what we want to see.
Yeah.
I never ever liked Cobra Commander, but in this, just better than every one of them.
There's some,
so that's worth everything, really, as far as I'm concerned.
There's some just really dynamic kind of moments where it's, there's panels and splashes where he looks really great. Some really great portrayals and scenes and menace. Right, let's have a show of hands. Who's up for a bit of Cobra Commander? 1, 2, 3. Oh, I think it's unanimous. I'm going to put my hand up as well. So I think we've got a full house for Cobra Commander. He is
King Snake.
King Snake. There we go.
Easily.
Well done.
All those other guys are like, we matter. You don't.
Okay, we've got best story. The Last Stand. Homecoming. This is those Joes hanging out and uncovering, sort of stumbling onto a Cobra conspiracy in the bar. Out for Blood. That's the solo Duke and Major Blood issue number 5, and Closure. That's issue 20 and 21, including the silent issue from Zek. So who was it that selected Homecoming? Who wants to give that one a shout out? Volunteers? No? I can't remember who asked for it. Okay.
The internet just asked for that one, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. But yeah,
I think I gave it an honorary mention.
Maybe it was your honorary mention.
I just want to point out, since Mark's probably about to ask about Out for Blood, that both the font on that parachute, that font is called Impact. That's the same font that Mark has used for these titles and the words best story. So we see Out for Blood in Impact, both in the page and also below the page.
And I think this might be the only time as well there's a title page that features the name of the story on the splash page
in the comics, as opposed to in the
comics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, maybe. I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Homecoming gets an honorable mention for me because they're both drawn by Bado, and that was his first work on here. And I know, remember being really high on that. And there were just some story spots that kind of bring it down. But the art was, for me, when the book kind of had the possibility of kicking up, that's when I was like, okay, this could be really good. So almost gets it, but not quite.
Okay, let's let's have a show of hands then for best story. So, Last Stand.
I'll
I
stand for
know
that.
I'm fighting a losing battle.
Is
Hey,
that a vote? Is that a vote, Steve? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that was
Good Lord,
3.
I'm astonished.
Uh-oh, fellas.
3. Any homecomers? Out for Blood.
No, just kidding.
Oh, crikey.
I would if I could, but
I'll give an honorary one for Diana, who can't be with us today, and and Closure. I'm that's taking my votes, and Tim and Jay. So that is 3. So that is neck and neck. We've got a write-in vote, sort of coming in from the post as we speak. Anything Joe's is voting for some Closure.
There you go.
And so I think with that tipping over the balance, we'll declare Closure the winner of this category.
I
The
do.
one comic had no work in it, man.
I do want to say, though, I'm voting for Closure, and then there's so much to like about it. Closure and The Last Stand together for me sort of make what G.I. Joe is, which is some smaller scale and ninja stuff.
Is that you?
All right, it's very loud.
Oops, wrong button.
oh, hello.
I just pressed the wrong button. Sorry.
Okay, sorry.
Closure represents smaller stakes, fewer people, smaller like scope and geography, and also ninja stuff. And then The Last Stand is team versus team, big battle stuff. And both of these stories sort of narratively start out really strong, and then the second halves of these stories for me don't live up to the first half. But there's a lot to like in The Last Stand. So even though I'm voting for Closure, sort of, these two together, it's like this is Devil's Due at its best so far.
Very good.
I'm just really pleased to see that. I thought The Last Stand was going to be massacred there. So I'm pleased to lose honorably.
Nice. What is up next? We've got
weren't
best.
that harsh on it. We were harder on some other things.
Yeah.
Malfunction.
Yeah. There's a lot to
Which
like
is
about
coming
Last
up.
Stand. It's just okay. Best single issue. We've got issue number 16, which came for a little bit of grief from certain people when we spoke about it. Issue number 20, the Bado issue, the companion piece 21 from Zach, and the finale of The Last Stand, issue 25. Some very different stories.
Excuse me a minute, gentlemen.
Okay, I'll click on. Just remove you from the screen a second there, Richard. So, anyone want to chime in on these? Steve, what would be your pick for favorite issue?
I have to admit, I didn't really connect with any of the nominees particularly. I guess what really, if I may talk a little bit about what characterizes Devil's Due for me, is any instance where we feel like we're dealing with a Joe team that has just recently been cobbled back together again after not being active for a passage of time, which is why Reinstated will always stick in my memory. It's not a perfect series of comics by any stretch, but that is so memorable, and that's what the early Devil's Due run added to the G.I. Joe mythos, that G.I. Joe can be mothballed and then come back into the fray. But if I had to pick one of these 4 contestants, I think for the reasons Tim mentioned in the previous category, the personal story that we see play out in 20 puts it on top. Storm Shadow needs help. He reaches out to Billy, pulls in Snake Eyes and that sweet dragonfly that he's got parked out back. I mean, come on. How cool is that? And yeah, they rush in to help an old friend. Yeah, that's a good book.
Okay, very good. For me, I think I'm quite torn apart between these ones. That I think I'm almost leaning towards going for issue 16, which possibly isn't the one that I had the favorite, the highest vote score for when we were reviewing, but it sort of stands out as a very different Joe book, and where they're really trying to sort of do their own thing and sort of have that X-Files style sort of investigation into a mystery, and sort of really trying to seed some mystery and some plot threads which can then be picked up later on. So while there were elements of the execution that were possibly a little flawed, I did enjoy.
What, you
that
didn't
issue.
like Spirit and Covergirl having some banter?
Quality bands, yeah.
Ooh, what's that all about?
Yeah, don't know if that those bands quite fly in our modern era, but yeah. That aside, I did like the way that Seeley interpreted Spirit, and kind of tried to make him a more distinct character from the rest. But all of that said, I think I probably would vote issue 21 just for the pure specialness of having Zek interior art. But yeah, I think a close thing between 16, 20, and 21 for me, to be honest. Anyone else want to chime in before we take a vote?
I actually considered 16 just for the same reasons that you did. When I saw your what our nominees were for this, because I remember that was the first one that I read that I was like, I want to read the next issue and see what's happening next. So it really grabbed me in a way that a lot of the other ones didn't. Yeah, ultimately though, yeah, you hit that's 20. You just
20 is the issue. 20 is the issue where Devil's Due gets as good as it should be, and also at the same time is doing something that like Devil's Due was doing that Marvel wasn't doing, right? Like 16, there's an attempt, but I didn't like the art. Reinstated, there's an attempt, but it's too busy. 20 is where Devil's Due sort of becomes Devil's Due.
Nice. Okay.
Like you said, Tim, that's what number 1 should have looked like. If number 1 looked like that, and that book had been like that from the beginning, yeah, it would have been a nice book.
Okay, let's take the votes. After all of that, is there anyone picking 16 for their favorites? Was that a vote or no? Twitch. I think that's no votes, right? 20. I think we're seeing 3.
1, 2.
21. I think it was just going to be me then. And 25. 2. Okay, so issue 20 takes it. Congrats to Mr. Badeau. Your award will not be in the post. Best scene.
Ooh. Oh.
It's from issue 15. It's Bazooka versus Big Boa. Oh, there we go. There's that. I think that's the extent of the scene. It was short, but it packed a punch. It's another 2-page scene. It's Cobra Commander shooting Billy in issue 20.
Jeez,
and
those CGs, man. So good.
Yeah, it's a brilliant rendition there. Look at them.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Serpentor takedown from issue 25 as Cobra Commander. This is Sparta's him off a tower into a long drop to a watery fall.
Watery monologue.
Yeah, monologuing all the way to the bottom.
They should have had the text getting smaller and smaller and smaller. It's like, sorry, I can't hear you, Serpentor. I can't hear you. Bye.
And then from issue 1, it's getting the band back together. as the Joes are given the call with the comedic payoff that Bazooka is concerned about, the fitness test that might be involved. So there we go, a choice of 4 very different scenes, but which one will make the top of the picks? So should we get into it? Let's call them out and ask for a vote. And if you want to, make a comment as we go, chime in. So, who's giving a vote for issue 15, Bazooka versus Big Boa? We've got 1 there, I think. Cobra Commander shoots Billy. I think that's getting my vote as well. We got 3. The Serpentor takedown.
Every time. It's the only quote scene from a comic I can quote. I can quote it verbatim even now.
That's cool.
Crikey.
About me rather than the scene, probably.
And then issue 1 getting the band back together.
Well, after the spiel I gave in the last category, it's gonna be me.
So, divided opinions there, but Cobra Commander shooting Billy just about takes it.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the inverse, it is the worst scene. So who is getting a little less love? It's the Duke's salute from issue 11. Now, Bart, I think this was you asking for this particular choice. What is it that's so egregious about this particular salute?
Like I said in the beginning, I just chose fun things. He's saluting from the middle of his forehead, and to me, I just find that funny. If I did that, I'd be slapped.
Okay, side by side, can you demonstrate what a proper salute should look like?
Oh, wow.
Tip of your finger to the edge of the glasses, or if you have a hat on, to the edge of the hat.
Okay.
Way
A couple of millimeters, depending on hatless glasses. Nice.
Did they get a military consultant shortly after this, or did they have one on board when this issue was in effect?
Yeah, this was issue 11, so they would have had one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe it's different when you've got a suit and tie.
He shouldn't even be saluting in a suit and tie.
What a dickhead.
He's not in uniform. Or at least he doesn't salute like this. I mean, that's just weird.
Isn't that British?
Yeah.
Or in like this, I guess. You know.
Oh dear. Actually, it looks like we might be military consultant less on this particular issue.
Oh.
Looks of things.
I know they had a captain later on. Phil, I forget what his last name was. He was an actual Army captain, super fan. He had the Joe something website. I forget.
Oh,
yeah. It was big after Devil's Due had shut down. Everybody migrated over there, and he was actually an Army captain. And I know he did some consulting work for them here or there. Joe,
No.
I forget. I don't know. I'm old.
So worst scene, Roadblock and Heavy Duty. Who are you supposed to be? My replacement?
Yeah.
If it's a classified figure, they're the same person.
Right?
No.
Come on, Richard.
There we go.
You gotta just say that one.
It's awful.
Tell us why it's good.
I'm not politically correct. I'm really not. I'd probably be in dead trouble with a lot of woke people nowadays. But it just feels weird. It makes it feel like interchangeable black guys, and it just feels really uncomfortable. Yep. I don't know what it is. It's just not, especially as Heavy Duty wasn't a heavy machine gunner. It's not even accurate in terms of what they did.
What if they took Heavy Duty out and put Double Blast in? That would have made it even worse.
I don't know. It just feels slightly uncomfortable by any standards. And this, 19 years ago, different times. but even then it felt a bit weird. So I don't know. It's a bad joke.
And the movie, they were cousins.
Oh, yeah. Issue number 9. Snake Eyes loses it and shoots up an elevator who has done nothing to him. And issue 20, it's Scarlet entering the Olympics with a ring toss. Clack, clack, clattering down to the ground. Looks like she might be sort of in cosplay as, is it Fairchild from Gen 13?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know, as someone who thinks about sound effects a lot, I've got a new reason not to like this scene. A sound effect for a ring bouncing on a floor would be like TING, or CLINK, but not KLAK. KLAK is like dropping a hockey puck on a wooden floor, or like a couple of wood boards on a wood floor. This gets my vote.
Geez, Tim, I thought you were going to go for the fact that dropping a ring on the floor gets a sound effect, but punching a hole in a wall does not.
What about having the flag displayed improperly? That flag's backwards.
Oh no.
They're charging into BattleBot.
No, not that kind of.
Bart, I
The
think
stars go on the other side.
Bart, I think that's a mirror, and the flag is on the opposite wall.
Okay, I'll take that.
There we go. No prize it.
No
Just
prize,
trying to get Devil's Due out of this one. This gets my vote. Who else votes for 20?
Okay, let's see. Let's take the vote. So because Tim is so keen, let's work back to front on this one. Who's voting for the ring toss? We've got 1 for the ring toss. Yeah, I think I'm going to add my vote, actually. There we go. 1 + 1 equals 2. Quick maths. Oh,
Yep.
1 +
3.
1 + 1 equals 3. Wow. So that A level is being put to good use. And so next up, we've got Snake Eyes losing it, and blasting away. No votes. Roadblock.
Can I vote twice?
Can you vote twice?
Actually, can I vote 3 times?
Roadblock and Heavy Duty.
I hope you're adding this to your innuendo score there, Mark. You've had plenty of guffaws.
Was that just 1?
I
And
want to
then we've
vote
got
for that
Duke
so
Salute.
bad, but just as a character issue, the Scarlet thing is much more offensive.
So I know we've got Bart voting for this one. Have you, Steve? Did you vote for this one? Yeah.
That's me.
Signaling the vote.
Okay,
Okay,
so
so I
do
think
it.
the ring toss has it, but I think we could have quite easily voted for any of these.
Yeah, this was harder than any of the other ones.
Best redesign. We have got Serpentor, Spirit in his Snake Eyes cosplay. We've got Shipwreck and the Havoc. That was Steve's vote and the nomination, rather. And the an honorary mention that got bumped off the list was Dr. Mindbender. So I quite appreciated the updating of his look as well. So let's hear from someone who says that they like the Spirit costume for a change, which means no Jay, no Tim.
I genuinely don't know what the objection is. I don't think it looks like Snake Eyes at all. And, the original design, different times, and they had to do something. And actually, I think he's going to get a better redesign again in a couple of years' time. But I just think he looks really good in it. I think it works. You see, I think the brown straps and all of that offset the black. And I know it's kind of become a running joke, but I think it's a really good redesign. I can't really say anything more than that. I found Duke in the black costume in issue 5 to be more of a problem, particularly if you looked at the cover of that, you could have almost thought that was Snake Eyes. But
Yeah, absolutely.
that's unmistakably Spirit, so I don't have a problem with it at all, genuinely.
Yeah, and they sort of slightly
when I make comments about it.
they tweak it as well by having the necklace as well. As it appears on the toy, which kind of makes it slightly more its own piece as well. But yeah, I don't object to it personally. Steve, what about your choice, the Havoc?
Oh, well, if it was up to me, we'd have this list entirely populated with vehicles, because Devil's Due had some fantastic redesigns. I mean, anytime they took a very small, dinky, basic playset or toy and increased its capacity, I was on side. So we had flight pods that could hold, I think, 4 or 6 people. Destro's AGPs became like his chariots of choice for like intercontinental travel, because it could hold numerous troops. And the Shark had about 6 seats in it as well. Shipwreck's climbing out of a shark in that image that we've got. Terrific. But the Havoc takes top honors for me, because the Havoc was a mess to begin with. Oh, Sergeant Slaughter is going to oppose me
and
on
the
that.
Havoc doesn't have anything orange on it, so that's good.
They've doubled its size in this image. I mean, it is half of a Havoc, but what you could see if it was blown up was the fact that the crew in the cab can actually sit upright. The front guns are now like rotary barrel cannons instead of those weird orange mortar things. There's a troop capacity in the back. Yeah. The top turret, exactly. Roadblocks up there, and he's got plenty of armor, but also good visibility. And they move the articulation point, like on the Havoc. It's weird. No tank does this. The 2 sets of tracks are steerable, which is so awkward. But in this redesign, it just like an articulated truck. It can kind of articulate like that. The just behind where the cannon is, it can articulate, I suppose, to increase its maneuverability and hardiness. It's fantastic. And it still has the little hover scout craft, which it shows off in one little panel. I wish Brandon Badeau had more time to really tease out his design. But
we in the way it appears in the issue itself, you sort of only see bits of it at any one time. There isn't a single great shot just sort of showing everything. It's why we've got this funky half shot to display.
So that
here.
Wasn't an actual toy. That was just something that Badeau.
This was a comic redate, comic only update. Yeah.
There was no. Yeah, they never updated the toy. I wish they did. I would have bought the shit out of this. Yeah.
I very much appreciate S. Jubbs's thoughtful explanation and all that, but Sergeant Slaughter's Slaughterhouse is right. I love the original Shipwreck, and I think people need to pay more attention to the 1993 Navy SEAL redesign. But this one manages to sort of combine those two, but also give him something to do on land that doesn't look silly. And speaking of looking silly, I won't vote for Serpentor, because to me, this is a Serpentor's redesign here is a like exciting redesign, but it's too much, which is for me a lot of the Devil's Due problem and some of the sort of G.I. Joe toy problem of like 2003 to 2006. There is an elegance in simplicity, and the original Serpentor is not simple, but compared to this, it is. I vote Shipwreck.
Okay, let's go for the vote then. So, who's for Serpentor? We've got
the Transformers.
It's cool, but maybe not incredibly functional. It looks like it's very heavy. You'd be around a bit like that.
What's his alt mode? A snake.
He changes into the other half of the air chariot. He's actually a MicroMaster. He's actually a MicroMaster combiner. It's a little Transformers joke for my Transformers fan friends out there.
No,
Okay.
isn't he a duocon?
Oh, very good, very good.
Yeah, click them together.
Okay, Spirit.
Although Shipwreck runs him very close.
One.
Very.
Or you can give it a half vote.
One.
And you can carry over one to the Shipwreck.
Give
Okay.
Shipwreck half a vote.
Here we go. Half for Spirit and then half for Shipwreck. Who else is voting for Shipwreck?
Sorry.
For Shipwreck?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm voting
Yeah,
for Shipwreck.
and me too. There we go. So it's looking like it's going to carry it. And Steve, lonely over
course.
here on the end with
Represent.
yeah. And this is the point I was trying to make here, that Serpentor is 300 pounds of solid gold. You know, it's
Well,
so it's
it
a
looks
weighty
like
battle
it.
armor.
Some of the
Overlord.
problem, some of the problem with this Serpentor redesign is the coloring, but most of it is I think what I already said.
over design.
Yeah, it looks cool in the right light, but yeah, you know,
It's even got an
Poor
arc
artist
reactor.
that-
Jeez.
poor artist that has to draw this every panel that he appears on. Next up, best new character. Not too much of a fanfare for the introduction of these ones. We have got Kamakura, Overkill, Overlord, and Zanya. How'd the Green Power Ranger get in here?
Does Overkill count as a new character?
Well, Overkill's
He
a new
has a new
character.
code
and
name,
the
so that's a
Saw-
new character.
Yeah, Saw Viper's not, but yeah, new name, new look. Yeah, so yeah, we'll let it in. We'll let it in. So let's go through each one and with the hands up for votes and chip in with comments as we go. So Kamakura making a big entrance in issue 1. Lots of story to come from him, but what did we think over these first few issues? Anyone picking him as a favorite? No,
I'll put my
Oh.
hand up. Yeah.
I think I will too as well. Actually, so I think he's going to get 2.
I think he's fine. I never quite understand why people don't like him very much, but he's not the best of them.
I think I have an idea why people don't like him, and that it feels unearned, and that it feels like a gimmick. That if Snake Eyes is going to have an apprentice much earlier than happened, because then that apprentice needs to do interesting things and as a character prove his worth, and then Snake Eyes needs to do things that indicate that he should have an apprentice. And without though, and I know that Kamakura does things later on, but it feels like a gimmick, and it feels like, oh, this would be cool if Snake Eyes had an apprentice, as opposed to how can we make this character earn his place. So I appreciate that the character has become popular, and kudos to Blaylock and company for making this character who then becomes a toy and is beloved. And I have some sympathy for the fans who are bummed that, as the previous comment just said, like the character's basically erased. But I don't like the character.
And yeah, it was interesting from what Josh Blaylock was saying as well, that Kamakura was almost less about creating a new character in of himself and more about the signifier of what that means for Snake Eyes. In that he's, as you're talking about, Tim, that it means that he's a master. It elevates him because he's got an apprentice, a sort of almost a Star Wars idea that you kind of move up and become a master and get an apprentice. Overkill. Who's putting their hand up here? So Bart, why do you like Overkill?
They brought back somebody and gave him a personality. I mean, this dude, from what they say, is clearly deranged. So he could have had a lot of potential in this series to just be a thorn in everybody's side, good guy, bad guy, because I think he's clearly out for himself, but he's just there to make a buck, and it gives him an excuse to kill more Joes. I could easily see him turning his back on some Cobra guy, tells him to do something. He's like, screw you, pops him in the back of the head and walks off. A Cobra commander could be like, why'd you do that? And he just give him some BS. And because he's such a badass, Cobra commander would be like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, it's kind of like Major Blood Jr.
With a higher body count.
I
mean, he's the deadliest Cobra there ever was.
I think I've been persuaded. I'm going to put in a vote for Overkill as well. That insane grin. I think the only flaw is if anybody was going to be killing characters in The Last Stand, it should have been him. Quite honestly.
And he's got that RoboCop black uniform kind of thing going for him.
Yeah, he was sort of he was drawn, nicely with a sort of like a kind of a wild grinning overbite and sort of Captain Marvel style slitty eyes, and he was introduced in quite a cool way. Overlord, for me, he was just looking a little bit too much like Serpentor and not really quite developed enough as his own character in his appearances. But yeah, reusing an otherwise ignored toy. Have we got any votes for Overlord? Silence. Wow. And anyone voting for Zanya?
So I have never liked this character, and I continue to not like this character, but she has earned her place in these issues, right? If we're jumping ahead, if Zartan is older, if the Dreadnoks have expanded, in a different take on this story, like you wouldn't have Zanya, you would just have Zarana like doing these same actions. But Blaylock created a new character, gave her a purpose, gave her some things to do, and sort of she works in a way for me that in these 25 issues, Kamakura does not. So I don't like Zanya, but I vote for her as like Devil's Due making its own progress. So hand up.
Okay.
He could have did the same thing with Xandar, and we see what happened with Xandar. Had he given Xandar some purpose and Zartan put him underneath his wing, he wouldn't have went to the coil.
True. So we've got Overkill and Kamakura. Actually, are we missing a vote? Have I missed counting someone?
Jay, who did you vote for?
Zanya.
Yeah, we've got two.
Zanya. Okay.
It's a three-way tie.
I like my women a little on the trashy side, so bring me the Dreadnought girls all day long.
Okay, and as executive decision here, I'm going to give it to Kamakura just from the sentiment of the comments that were coming in. So, ding, 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 Kamakura gets it just by a nose. Worst
wrong.
character. Who's this? Zanya. Appearing on two lists, which makes her the best, surely. We've got Zanya, we've got Destro Jr., Alexander, we have got the new Techie Joes, Demon and Firewall, who are interchangeable as evidenced in our discussions where we're constantly getting their names mixed up.
I still don't know which one is which.
And
Damon's the guy, right?
Damon was the guy that died, I think. So
yeah.
And Paige Adams, who made such an impression that the next time that she appeared in the books, Jay and Tim had entirely forgotten about her. So big impact there. And
Mark, I got a question. Since we've established that we can give half points, does that carry forward?
Oh no! What have I done? Precedent. Okay. Well, I'll allow
if it's
it.
half of a Golden Joe award, it would just be like an upper torso or something. So there'd be like half of a Golden Joe with like an O-ring hanging out
with a broken crotch.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's go through each one and score them as we go. So Zanya, we've spoken about, but is she the worst for anyone?
Yes, she is.
She's
She
right
is-
up there.
Hold on, she was the best earlier.
She's
right up there with worst
She is
character.
both the best new character for me at Devil's Due because she represents Devil's Due trying something different and it working, and she's also the worst new character because I don't agree with this time jump with making Zartan older and feeble. What Zanya does, Zorana or other characters should have done. So best and worst.
Okay,
Well,
best
I want to
and
give half to Zanya and half to Alexander.
worst. Okay.
They bring nothing to
Here we
the
go.
table. They could have easily been written out, and the story would have not missed a beat.
Okay. Any other votes there for Alexander Destro Jr. with his big stompy boots on display? No, we do have a right. We do have a vote in here for his companion, Mistress Amada.
Never.
Right, that was kind of an unpicked back up again plot thread. We thought that we'd come back to
Yeah,
her, and we didn't.
Her
well, she
biggest
She was
biggest
Cobra
plot
Commander's little
moment
sex
was-
toy, wasn't she?
That's
Yeah,
right.
maybe.
Her biggest
think
plot
that.
moment was monologuing and giving away important plot points to the Joes that were locked up in the prison, and then having a glass of wine chucked at her by Baroness. So Alexander was on half a vote. Was there any other votes for Alexander? No. Damon and Firewall.
It's my vote.
No votes. Oh, one vote. Two votes.
Hmm.
Uh,
And
My
shorthand
only
boys.
regret about The Last Stand, my biggest regret was that the other one didn't get killed too.
I mean, see, I think
so we are up to
they killed the right
we're
one.
up to 4 votes. So by my maths, that should mean that we should have 2 to come. So Paige Adams, is that 2? There we go. So Paige
She
Adams
caused such
gets
hideous confusion in the cabal where I can't. Biggest problem is I can't keep track of the characters, and she's the biggest problem because I have no idea who's been captured at any point in the cabal. That might be an artwork problem, but I'm going to blame her for being in the story at all. So.
Yeah, I'm on exactly the same point. Her inclusion is completely superfluous and only adds confusion.
I'm gonna in Mark's and my episode on issue 284 of A Real American Hero, I made the comment that in gunplay, it's actually quite difficult to hold 2 guns and to have any accuracy, but it's a cool action movie thing. And look at Paige Adams right here, right? Not only is she holding 2 pistols, she's cross. It's like she knows she's in a cool comic book as opposed to a character or anything remotely grounded.
She's dumb.
And she's not looking down either barrel.
Look, well, it looks like she's got her eyes closed.
She's using
She's
the
just
force.
holding gangster style. Been a lot nicer.
His eyes, they're closed. Good grief. Okay, so we were drawn on Damon and Firewall. Let's go over to someone that voted Zanya and Alexander to have the deciding votes.
Oh, you want
Tim,
me
I'm going to give you executive decision here.
I think that there is some sort of simmering dislike amongst the fans for Damon and Firewall in a way that there isn't for Paige Adams, because I think there's a collective amnesia for Paige Adams because she's not important, and the comic tried to make Damon and Firewall important. I would give the award to Damon and Firewall.
Damon and
Damon
Firewall are
and
cousin
Firewall.
Oliver from Brady Bunch.
Oh dear. Okay, so what do we have next? Best Nit-pick.
This is the one.
This is
like Tim Finn, the category.
Does Duke come back with the forehead salute?
No, he's not back in this one, but of course we do have a song for it. So here we go. Na 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 na.
Here come the nitpicker,
Timmy Finn,
analytical prankster,
Timmy Finn,
picking holes in your colouring.
Timmy Finn,
Still love G.I. Joe.
Timmy Finn.
No, he won't lie. Yes, he
Testify.
Anyone can see there's some criticism. Anything that he don't know ain't a thing that's worth to know. Pull him back and let him go. Criticism. Here come the nitpicker,
Timmy Finn,
analytical prankster,
Timmy Finn,
picking holes in your colouring.
Timmy Finn,
Still love G.I. Joe.
Timmy Finn.
I'm so pleased. I'm so pleased and embarrassed. Thank you.
If there was an award for best new jingle, I think that would be my my nomination.
I'm glad you said something. Now, guys, Mark is of the impression that the audience wants less jingles, not more. And I told him, you couldn't be more wrong. We need more jingles. Yeah, so get on it.
Talking Joe is jingles.
Yes. Talking jingles.
Wasn't I singing the jingle for the Havoc commercial before we went live? Yes, more jingle. Not a fake jingle, the actual 1986 commercial. More jingles.
Amazingly from memory.
I've committed a few of the ads to memory. I sing them while doing dishes sometimes, old TV themes. Let's get to the nominees.
Calls the guys with the white jacket.
Here we go. Jingle album, please. Yeah. Jingle
album.
Jingle Megamix Volume 3, representing the Mark, Tim, and Jay era, will be on its way at some point. Yeah.
Now that's what I call jingles.
Volume 3, yeah. Okay. Best Nit-pick. Number 11, the butter sculpture. Issue 11 rather. So, Tim, do you want to just remind us what what a butter sculpture is?
Computer coloring in comics, really shows up in the early 90s, and there's a difference between people who know how to paint, who know how light behaves, and people who know how to use the program Photoshop. And when you get people who know how to paint using Photoshop, you get really good coloring in comics. But there are a lot of comics that just are colored by people who know Photoshop. And behind, it's Heavy Duty, right? Behind Heavy Duty here is Smoke in downtown Chicago. And the coloring is overly rendered. There are the highlights are too bright, and the differences between the brights and the darks is too great. There's too much contrast. So as opposed to looking translucent or wispy, as opposed to fading into the background and not drawing attention, this is very bright and looks very solid and is very distracting.
Okay, there we go. It's the butter sculpture. Richard, do you get it now? Do you see that?
I know exactly what you mean. Yes, I do. I mean, I listened to that podcast and wept gently as a comic that I rather liked was torn to bits. So I had to take all the joys that I could, and the butter sculpture just made me laugh. So I liked it. I just liked it.
Is that why Heavy Duty's wearing purple?
And we'll talk. This will come up later, but the officer here has got a giant torch on her chest and wrist, and this house seems to be on fire behind them. With the flames burning bright through the windows, and has Heavy Duty got a Ghostbuster style backpack on over there with that's glowing, or is that another house on fire? Hard to say. The letter I, so the serifs. Up here in the top left, we can see some eyes, which have a sort of cross on them, the T, as it were. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, we've got a different sort of eye being used without the crosses. So just Yes.
And it's not that it's inconsistent. It's that a rule in comic book lettering is that I's only have serifs when it's the word I, like I myself. But the word its or interior or his, I's should not have serifs.
Can I submit a no prize? This tells you which twin's talking. Send that to P.O. Box 129.
And not a nitpick, but over here we've got Tomax's. Well, it is a nitpick, but it's a different nitpick. We've got Tomax's scar just below his left eye there, which moves about from place to place through the series a little bit. The next one is from issue 11. So shiny. Just here we go. We've got some housing illuminated, burning bright through every window. We've got skyscrapers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Those are bright missiles. 12. There's some light coming down from below. 13 odds flashes of highlights. We've got rock and roll with his special glowing belt, and each individual bullet on his bandolier there has got some sort of torchlight shining out the top of it. Same.
Was this edited by J.J. Abrams?
You would think.
Yeah.
And these torches that are used instead of police badges are just going to be standard issue.
Yeah, you know what? I might be able to. I can't bring these.
Flares.
Bring these lamps closer to my head. Mark, one could argue that this nitpick, right, so shiny, is the same nitpick as butter sculpture, which is coloring that is overdone. But I appreciate that you are giving my nitpicks so much space. So I will allow this to be a separate nominee. I look forward to seeing the fourth nominee.
Okay, next up we have deaths as a general concept here. That we had the green shirts seemingly introduced just so that more people could be killed without any consequence.
Red shirts.
Red shirts, not green shirts. And this guy is trying to make his shirt a bit more red by bleeding all over it. We had Chuckles sort of having an arc of his own in Frontline, only to be somewhat casually killed off in issue 25. It is by Overbite or whatever he's called over here. We had poor Flash and is it Mainframe that he was with being blown up off panel, and Lady J reading out a list of our favorite Joes who had died in combat the previous issue: Lowe, Ward, Smith, and Rosen. And then she finds out that there's one that she recognizes, and then she gets a bit more upset when Damon is killed. So there we go.
Everybody in the background's just like, yeah, whatever.
They've got important admin to be doing there. So there we go. Some fine nitpicks, but what are everyone's favorites? Who wants to chime in?
This might be a bit too technical a point, but like deaths to me transcends the category nitpick, and it's actually a more serious problem. So I have trouble voting for it. Like a nitpick, by definition, is exactly that. It's a nit. It's a minor quibble that is kind of always picking at you. Whereas the deaths, anytime it was tabled in the podcast, I caught myself agreeing wholeheartedly. I was like, this is a serious problem with the inclusion of these throwaway characters. They're literally doing nothing but offering up their lives. And so that named characters can escape with impunity. Exception being that very, very abrupt dispatching of Flash and was it Mainframe? No, was it Mainframe?
Yeah.
Or
Or
Tripwire?
was it sci-fi?
No, it was mainframe.
What?
think it was
Both laser troopers in one fell swoop. Oh, the humanity. Yeah, no, that's hardcore. So yeah, I don't know.
I think S-Jubs makes a good point that there might be another category, which is sort of best overall thematic contribution or best like creative decision that Devil's Due made, like hiring J. Scott Campbell or like getting Mike Zeck back or like introducing new characters or jumping ahead several years. And then the mirror side could be like worst overall Devil's Due decision or like
Greatest
creative
sin of the devil.
And yes, and deaths might be one of the nominees in that category.
Mm-hmm. So
I clearly am in a category of my own. I'm going to be very careful what I say. I'm quite serious when I say this. I'm going to be very careful when I say this because I'm conscious we've got a real military man here. I don't think there's enough deaths. I mean that quite seriously. It's a military book, and I kind of like the characters dying, and sometimes not necessarily in a horrifically heroic way. I think that makes it real. I loved Mainframe and Flash's deaths. I thought they were tremendous, and I know it's not wasn't popular, and I remember quite a lot of bad feedback at the time. I do agree with the killing off in the early issues of Nameless Joes, which all looks a bit sort of nondescript. But I do honestly think that more people need to die in a military book. Otherwise, I'm not sure there's a great deal at stake. I mean,
yeah, but it's sales. Everybody's somebody's favorite, and you killed my favorite. I'm not reading your book no more.
Oh yeah. Oh, I understand that absolutely.
I also, because these are legacy characters, like in Batman, in the Joker's first appearance in 1940, he dies at the end of that story. But he's so popular, he comes back a year or two later, or less than a year later, and there are all these characters in like non-G.I. Joe comics, like Batman sidekicks or like famous Avengers villains or famous Avengers who have died. And I feel like sometimes that's the writer running out of things to do. Sometimes it's the writer trying to make a big impact. And it often does make a big impact there. And then, 5 years or the writer feels like they've got nothing left to do. Right. And then 5 or 10 years later, that writer's long gone and there's some new writer who comes along and they really want to use that character and they either can't or they have to like come up with a reason to bring that character back, which is some like acrobatics. And so I've said this before on the podcast. I feel like generally writers shouldn't kill characters because these characters are going to stick around hopefully for years and years and years. And whoever's writing that book is not the last writer who's going to write those characters. And Richard, I take your point, and going back to the Marvel run, when a character did die, it really meant something. But I think it has to be done cautiously and only occasionally. And I think there's too much of it in the Devil's Due run, actually.
Can they kill a character, bring that character back, but have a different name? They've done that before.
Yeah,
it's not the same person, but it's the same code name.
The sneak peek thing went down very badly. Yeah. So.
They just killed him again.
Yeah.
Sneak peek, probably the character killed most in G.I. Joe chronology.
There's never a correct answer to this.
Yeah,
but
I think the Flash and Mainframe death was not quite as bad as possibly some of the other deaths. Bad, but in terms of it meant something a little bit more. The reason I singled it out was possibly just a slight misstep in the execution, because when we were discussing the issue, there was even a bit of confusion about, hold on, did they actually die? And if it's done in such a way that there's a little bit of lack of clarity about whether they even died or not, it sort of takes away a bit from that.
Yeah, maybe the nitpick here isn't all of the deaths. It's like the clarity of the storytelling of this one death or this other death.
I just wanted to point out that not necessarily there has to be a changeover of creative teams for characters to be resurrected. Larry has killed and resurrected so many. Cobra Commander, he has killed and resurrected Dr. Mindbender, he's killed and resurrected Dr. Venom. He's found ways to resurrect all of his darlings. I'm waiting for Snake Eyes to come back. It's gonna happen.
Those first two examples, though, you cited were either directly or indirectly necessitated by Hasbro. This book in particular, like unlike Avengers, like this book has a corporate master that it's connected to.
Yeah,
but I vote Butter Sculpture.
Let's start taking. There's a lot of there's a lot of butter love out there in the world of the internet. We've got
for me the Butter Sculpture
two shutouts.
We had. I think that was probably one of the best times. That just oh my god, we just kept going back to that. It was so funny. You can't top the Butter Sculpture.
Yeah,
I think I'm in on the Butter Sculpture as well.
Landslide probably.
So we got a show of
Deaths is kind of a thematic theme. Coloring is a technical thing. Butter Sculpture is a specific piece of horrific looking product.
That podcast I didn't comment on the Facebook page because I didn't enjoy it and I didn't want to be negative, genuinely. But that made me laugh, and that moment made me laugh, and it made it enjoyable. I think it looks more like popcorn now looking at it, but I assume it's butter popcorn.
I'm going to vote for So Shiny.
This sculpture can be whatever you want it to be.
And Bart votes for So Shiny.
Yeah, the moon's not that bright. I mean, we've all been out in a full moon, and it's not that bright.
I'll join you with Shiny there, Bart. I remember when I was a teenager and reading it for the first time, I was like, this is so jarring.
Okay, so I think we've got 4 for Butter Sculpture and 2 for Shiny. So the Butter Sculpture.
But they're linked. They're right. Yeah,
there we go. And that is the end of our categories.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think let's there we go. Trumpet it out.
Emmys, it's not about them shows. This award segment has Golden Joes.
Do you need me to make a phone call? I can have some cannons go off or something. Maybe a flyby.
Yes.
I do like Jay's reference at the beginning of the show that the formal name of the statuette would be the Golden Joe, and the colloquialism, the nickname would be a Stormy. Like the Academy Award and the Oscar. I got a Stormy, and the Stormy goes to Butter Sculpture.
We're getting there. That Butter Sculpture thing, though, my God, we laughed about that. That was so. Yeah, it was a highlight.
Excellent. So yeah, I think. Thank you everybody for joining us and taking us through.
Thanks for coming on board, guys.
On all of those. All of those things. So, has anybody got anything to plug before we sign out? So, Tim,
you can find me at arealamericanbook.com. Also, Facebook, A Real American Book. Instagram, A Real American Book.
Excellent. I am behind on my clicking of things, but here is arealamericanbook.com. Did that even show? Might not have done. I might have clicked it twice.
Yes.
But what have you got to shout about and plug?
You can just find me on Facebook. I'm also the co-host of Some Assembly Required. It's a subset of G.I. Joeberg, where we talk about customizing action figures, vehicles, just customizing in general. Yeah.
Good stuff. Good quality content there from the G.I. Joeberg channel. That bunch of goons. Jay, what are you selling to us? What kind of mumbo jumbo?
I'm not selling anything right now. Break Room Sketches. Go there, check out some artwork. Maybe one day we'll get some new stuff up.
Yeah. On our last podcast, I was just finishing editing. You said breakroomsetsketches.com. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. It's over on Facebook.
Well, it is. There's just nothing there.
Oh, right. I see. Excellent. Richard, is there anything
page under construction?
Under construction. Excellent. Excellent.
As you may have determined, I don't have a social media presence. And unless you're interested in amateur theatre in the northeast of England, then you'll never have heard of me. So I have nothing to promote. I'd just like to say thank you. And I will promote the next 18 issues because they're brilliant.
Excellent. We are looking forward.
Thanks for coming on board, Richard.
Thank you.
Good to have you on after all of your valuable input and comments over on the Facebook page.
I'll keep punching against the wall
without any sound effects. S Chubb.
You can find me everywhere. G.I. Joburg. Thanks, Matt, Zazel, Chris, and Anything Joes for joining us in the chats. Much appreciated. Good swing votes. And thank you, Mark and Talking Joe, for having us. It's been a blast, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for joining in on the comments as well and following along. And I think that is everything. I'll thank our Patreon contributors. You know who you are. Richard, Sam, Jay, Bill, Christopher, and Justin. And join in if you want. When all's said and done, you can catch us down the road.
Because we've been Talking Joe.
And we're all out of Joes.
That's
Bye,
right.
everybody.
Yeah, baby.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much.
Laters.
Nice times,